I want to welcome you to Something to Talk About, which is a program we do here at the Senior Community Center several times a week. We are grateful for the support that we have for this program. It's sponsored by Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island. Fieldstone offers innovative and compassionate care. They have residents up at their Rolling Bay facility, and they also offer day stay and respite programs in addition to memory care. They're in the process of constructing independent living as well. To learn more, call 360-689-4314. And I'd also like to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Suquamish tribe, the people of the clear salt water. We are grateful for their hospitality and we honor them. Today, we're going to be talking about voting in Kitsap County. We're joined by Kitsap County Auditor Paul Andrews for an overview of how voting works, how to keep it transparent, how to make sure that you're properly registered before you, at this point, this would be a perfect time to ask that question, and how the county works to make sure that voting is accessible to everyone. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. I look forward to answering all of your questions here today. Start just with a little bit of background on the auditor's office. We are the elections department. However, we're much more than that. As the auditor, I'm responsible for recording of legal documents that you need to have preserved and be able to be recovered, like your home deed, or if you were in the military and you were issued discharge papers, we will record those. So that they can be recovered as you might need them. Any kind of name changes or things like that, we also take care of. We issue marriage licenses to people wishing to get married. We're also responsible for licensing. So we do all of the licensing, title work, renewals for vehicles, vessels, motorcycles in the county. And you have a sub-agent there on your account or on the island there, but he works for us. They're contracted, those services. And so all of their administrative oversight comes from our office. We have 5 sub-agents around the county, as well as our own office, that perform all of these services for people. We also are responsible for county finance. We pay all of the county's bills, and we report all of the spending and the allocation and where money went. And so we are tracking around $400 million every year of taxpayer dollars. And then all of that work is audited yearly by the Secretary of State. And our work has given the county the ability to have a great credit score and allows us to be able to function and do the things we need to do to support the people of Kitsap County. Elections is the thing I'm here to talk about today, and it's one that I really love to talk about. I am a certified elections administrator and the chief election official for Kitsap County. And that means that Kitsap County, my office, are responsible for administering all elections across the county. That's for the cities as well as the unincorporated area. So anytime that your fire district wants to put a measure on the ballot for approval of the voters, they bring that to us. We are the ones that are responsible for putting all that information onto a ballot, getting a voter pamphlet or some form of information out as to what it is they're asking for. Same thing with your city council, your mayor, all of that. Anything that needs to be voted on across the county, we manage. And so we do that here in our office. We have a regular staff of 9 people. And then we bring in additional staff. These are paid employees that are seasonal, that come in and do elections work. And so depending on what the election is, determines kind of how many people we need for any given election. And so we are right now in the midst of our midterm election cycle. It is the second largest in a 4-year cycle of elections that we administer. And so we will have somewhere in the neighborhood of around 100 employees that we will bring in extra for this election. During a presidential cycle, that number gets upward of 150, 180 employees that we bring in to manage everything that we need to do to successfully conduct an election. So I'm going to start with a video. Like Reed said, this is life of a ballot. And this will show you everything that we do in the ballot work to get the ballot to you and you bringing it back to us, and how it processes through our system to ultimately be counted. And then after the video is over, I can go back and answer questions about any piece of that video, and we'll get into some more detail as to what you might have saw, what you might now have questions about, and all of that. So this is Life of a Ballot. I'll narrate and talk through it live as we watch it, and then we will we'll come back together from there. So let me find this video, and I'm sharing. And if Reed, if you can just confirm for me again that you are seeing Life of a Ballot. And I can't see you anymore.
Oh, yes, yes.
All right. So here we go. Life of a Ballot. So we have about 186,000 active registered voters in Kitsap County, and the elections start for us long before filing week. We receive information of all of the measures and advisory votes, things that are going to be on that ballot cycle. And so after that, we compile all of this information and we send it off to printers. And so we get the ballots that we need, and we get all of the materials, and we send it to a mail house where your packet gets assembled by a machine. And you'll see this machine is actually selecting the envelope, and then it's putting your ballot, and it's putting your secrecy sleeve and the outer envelope and any inserts and all of that. It's a very archaic looking machine, and it has a little water tank there that will actually seal the envelope shut. So as they go by, each piece is added and inserted, and then in the end, after it gets through all of this, you'll see that they spit out on the other end, and that becomes your ballot pack that gets put in the mail. And so this work is done about a month before the election, and there's a very purposeful process for how they go about doing all of this work to assemble these packets, and they're validating everything. Once the packets are all assembled, they're put into trays for the post office. They're marked as being ballots because the post office requires that we are labeling exactly what happens. And then all of these are then delivered off to the post office for processing. But not all ballot packets are made by that machine. We have staff that produces somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 ballot packets by hand every election as well, because we do an initial poll of all of our registered voters, but then we have to do these additional ballots to cover everybody. So 18 days before the election, you're going to get your ballot, and the ballots start coming back to our office. And this here is the ballot box that we have in our office, but you can also use the post office. You see a security seal there that assures that that box is never opened. But as those ballots come back in, we put them into boxes that are sealed, that our teams use to pick up, and each of those are tracked by what location they were at. The people that seal those boxes put the seal log number on them, and they sign that they put all the ballots in there. And then when the ballots get back to us, we compare the number on that green tag with the number from the report, confirm it is still the same one, so we know that nothing's been tampered with. And then we break that seal, and we will then sign that we confirmed that it was sealed, and we have two people that are present that will then sign off that we broke the seal and we opened up the box and started processing the ballots. And so our first step in this, after we've broken that seal, is we will make a count of how many ballots came from that particular box during that particular time that we were picking up. And this is all used for tracking purposes, because we track where ballots come from every day, if it's out of a ballot box, if it's from the post office, and it helps us with keeping track of our totals, so that as we're processing the ballots and we get towards the end of the election, we can account for every ballot that has come into the office, and that has been counted. So like I say, we count everything every day, every delivery, and we have a very purposeful process where you see how they are aligning everything so that they're all facing the same direction. It's just part of the process of making sure that we're paying attention to these as we go, and then they do their count. Now, we don't always get ballots back just for our county. They come in for other counties and other states, and we take those and forward them on. That was an example of a ballot we received for somebody in Florida. As we've counted the ballots and we prepare them to start their process through the room, we tray them up, and in each of those carts, we have where they're destined to go. So the first stop in the process, though, is that we run these ballots through our sorting machine. This machine on the side here has a camera, and it actually reads the barcodes on the side of the envelope, and it captures the whole image across the face of the envelope, including your signature. And so as fast as those go by, it's getting all of this information and recording that we received your ballot, so that we can start the process of validating your signature and counting your vote. And so then it goes through a separating process where it creates batches of 300 so that we can send those off to Signature Check to verify your signature. And so we hold these then in trays and carts while it goes off to signature verification. At signature verification, we actually put human eyes on every signature of every envelope and compare it against the file signature that we have. And you'll notice in some of these, we have multiple signatures. And that's because we notice that over time, as you get older, your signature may change. And so we try to capture these changes over time so that we have the best representation of your signature. Now, if your signature does get challenged, before we notify you of a challenge, it's reviewed by at least 3 or 4 different people before we challenge it and notify you of that. After we've gone through the process and verified the signatures, we run them back through the machine. The machine reads the barcodes, recognizes whether the ballot signature was accepted or challenged, and then it distributes them again back into the trays. But this time when it's doing it, it's actually sorting them by areas of the county. And we do this for a ballot management process because with 186,000 registered voters, we like to keep our ballots by area. That way, if we have to do a recount of any of the races, it minimizes the number of boxes we would have to go back to open up to figure out where they go. And so this machine is very particular. It knows exactly who, what, where, and it drops them into the proper trays as it distributes them down the line. And we'll show you here in a second. We have a map that kind of shows how we break the county out into these consolidated precincts. But the machine, along with capturing your signature, is also looking at things like how wide is the envelope, how heavy is the envelope, because it may have more than just the ballot in it. We need to identify that before we get to the opening phase. So here on the map, this is the consolidated precincts that are used to manage our ballots across the county. And you'll see that area number 4 might be hard to read, is Bainbridge Island. The north end of the county, Hansville, Kingston is 6. The Paulsbo area is 8. The Bangor area and part of Silverdale is 9. 5 becomes part of that unincorporated Silverdale Bremerton area. 3 is Bremerton and surrounding areas. 7 is the Seebeck area and down into South Kitsap. So after we've taken all of the ballots and we've sorted them by signature, knowing that they were accepted or rejected and they're sorted into their consolidated precincts, now we finally open that ballot and we take all of those ballots and we bring them over to this really simple machine where what it does is shaves the top of the envelope off so that we can access the contents inside. We already know that you were the signature, the recipient and signature of the ballot. And so everything is good to go for processing your ballot. And you'll see they give it a tap, make sure they knock all the contents down to the bottom, and then they just run it through the machine and it takes the top of the envelope off. So it makes it easier for the staff to then go ahead and get your ballot out. And so, just showing how all of this process happens. Those ballots then go back into the tray. They're put back onto one of the carts and they await being assigned or checked out by a staff member who then will go through the process. The very first thing that staff member is going to do is they're going to count all of the ballots in that batch and compare that count against what the machine says it is. Again, count, count, count. We're constantly verifying the number of ballots that we get. And you'll see the stack that she has in front of her that are kind of cross-stacked. And that's because she's counting into batches of 20. And then she starts a new batch. And this way, if anything happens during the process, she knows where she was. And if there was an error in the count, she can go back and look at them in the batches of 20. So at this point, everything is ready to be separated and opened. So we go through a very deliberate process of first removing the ballot from the envelope and creating 2 separate stacks. The envelopes are put on one side, the ballots on the other. And this is the first step in making sure we're assuring that your secrecy of your vote is kept. So that hole that sits in your envelope, we use that to actually thread a piece of yarn through it, and then we tie those off. And then we take these stacks of envelopes, we cut them like a deck of cards, and then we start pulling the ballots out of the envelopes and then the secrecy sleeve, and then we review them to make sure that everything is ready to be run through the machine. That if you don't vote all of your ballot, if you overvote, undervote, those all require further review and requires additional attention. So we try to keep those in separate batches and only first process everything that's ready to go. When they're ready to go, they go back into trays, this time into a cabinet, where they await being put into the scanners. Now the scanners, when they process them, they scan both sides at the same time. They read the barcode to know what they're looking at as far as which ballot and which side of the page, and that determines what target areas it's looking for on those. After they've been run through, they're again bundled up, put into boxes, and secured with these security seals until the election is certified, and then we maintain those again after certification until the election is over. And so if it's a federal election, we have to keep all records for 22 months. And if it's a local election, it's only 60 days. So if it's just a Bainbridge Island council race, we hold it for 60 days, and then we can destroy all of the election materials and be moving on to our next election. So that was a really quick 10 minutes of the life of a ballot, but you got to see how the ballots move through the room and what we do to make sure that we maintain your privacy, that we're accounting for everything throughout the process, and getting to the end at where we count them and certify. And I see Francis's hand, and I love questions, so let's go. And
you need to unmute, right?
Unmute. Hey, Francis, I need you to unmute.
They did ask us to unmute.
There we go.
I have a lot of questions, but I'll ask one and let others jump in and ask theirs. Where do you get the extra workers, and how are they qualified or screened or trained?
So we have the benefit of really having a lot of longtime people that have been doing this, but we get them by posting as a job available for hire through the county process. So if you go to the county's website under the human resources job hirings, you'll find seasonal election worker there. And we go through, we review for making sure you have to be a registered voter to be able to work in elections. And so we make sure that they're a registered voter, and then we give a background check. So we send that off to the sheriff's office. They conduct a background check. If you pass a background check, we bring you in, we go through a training, and we start you in the process. If it's obvious that elections aren't for you, we are very detail oriented. If you're having trouble following our procedures and things like that, we typically let you know that you're not really meeting the needs and requirements of the job. And we bring in more people, but typically the people that are applying for these jobs are people that really want to be part of the process. They want to give back to the community, and that's why they're applying. And so we don't have a lot of problems, but sometimes it happens, and we've got a process for that. Sheila,
and you need unmute.
Thank you. I did. How do we apply for that, and where do you work? Down in Port Orchard?
Yeah, our offices are in Port Orchard on the county campus here. We're in the administration building. There's 3 buildings that are all county offices just up from Port Orchard City Hall. So everything happens here. Most of the work is conducted over around a 3-week period or so. You come in right after ballots go out, we go through some training, and then you work through about a week or 2 after election day. We start some days we'll skip because we're not receiving as many ballots like early in the election process, and then as we get to election day and past, we'll have a big flurry of ballots, and then it starts to thin off again. And so you're not working 3 weeks straight, but it's around a 3-week period of time where we would have you. And to apply, you go to the county's website, or you can give our office a call, and they can give you more information on applying, but we have a process for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Karen, have a question?
Hi.
Hi.
Back after Secretary of State Sam Reed was leaving, myself and several of my friends were scrubbed from the voter rolls.
Okay.
You know, we had to jump through hoops to get back on. But was that initiated through the county or was that state?
The state manages the removal of people, but there could be various reasons why they would initiate that. We have the responsibility that if you do not vote in several federal elections, we make you inactive, and you're not scrubbed from the rolls, but you are made inactive, and that would then start a process where you could be scrubbed then after several more elections where we don't hear anything from you. But there are times where people get scrubbed accidentally because their name may match, or actually all of their information matches what the Social Security has provided to us as being somebody that may have passed away. Social Security is not always 100% right, and we've helped a lot of people deal with that, with getting those records cleaned up and getting their identity restored so that they can register and be a voter again. But getting back on the rolls is actually very easy because all you have to do is just re-register. And being that you were registered once, we can go back in and pull your past record up now and reactivate you. But back when Sam was there, we didn't have a statewide voter registration database. And so it was a little more detailed in the work we would have to do from a county level. And if you happen to have moved from one county to another, we didn't have all of your past records. But now all 39 counties in the state are under one system, and we have the ability to do a lot more in managing voters and moving them around if necessary.
But it sounds like it might be a good idea to check to see if you are registered as an election comes up.
Yes, and you can do that by going to our website. So we're kitsapgov.com. And if you search elections, I was going to bring it up here just so I can walk you through, but there's a spot there where you can, on the elections website, you can go check the status of your ballot. You can check the status of your registration. And so you can find out about yourself. And so you can review it's a voter registration information. You can review the information we have on you. For a good portion of the people, nothing has ever changed, but about 10 to 15% of people in the county move every year. And so, making sure that you're most up to date is the best way to do that, is going to our website. Under voter registration, you'll have to give it your name, you'll have to give your birth date, and then it'll confirm that yes, we have you, and yes, this is the address we have. Is that correct? Do you need to change it? And then it'll give you further information after that, where on the side of the screen you can see who your elected officials are, and it'll show who's currently serving you in all of the offices that you get a vote for. There's been some confusion. People think that is actually what was on their ballot and who they voted for. And it's not. It's who is currently serving in that position. So, but this is just, it's a resource for verifying your information. And then during the election, you can go back to that same site. It's VOTEWA, VOTEWA.gov. So if you go to VOTEWA, from that, you can verify that we've received your ballot, because it'll tell you, yes, the county has recognized that they've received your ballot. That's that first pass through the machine that I showed you. After your signature is verified and accepted, the message then changed to your ballot is being counted. And that's because at that point, we separate the ballot from your envelope, so we can't tell you anything more other than your signature verified and your ballot's being counted. Now, if we've challenged your signature, it will say signature challenged. And at that point, you're going to hear from us. We're going to send you a letter that's going to ask for an update on your signature so we can verify it against the signature on the ballot. But you can also, contact us early in that process and say, I see that my signature has been challenged. What can I do? How can we speed this up? The important thing to remember, though, is that your signature is going to be reviewed by several people, and it may take a day or so for several people to look at it. So if you catch that it was challenged early in the process, it may ultimately be cleared by the time that you call us. We may have had an employee that now has looked at and says, no, this is this is Karen, this is Francis, whatever, because we have, what we do is we escalate it up through experience. So the first review is by these workers we bring in. The next review is by the leads. The third review is by regular staff, my 9 employees that work all the time, that have done this for a long time and looked at a lot of signatures. If a fourth is needed, it goes to a supervisor. So it's very, very often we actually will cure or clear signatures that are challenged before you ever even know about it.
Yeah,
But you know that I voted, but you don't know who I voted for.
Yeah, when we separate that ballot from the envelope, at that point, we've detached you from anything that would tie you directly to that vote. So we know that you voted, but we don't know who you voted for.
And I can't, stress enough that check your voter registration. I had been voting every election in my life since 21. And there was about a half a dozen friends that lived on Bainbridge Island that were just arbitrarily scrubbed by Sam Reed.
Okay.
And yeah, it was wonderful. And we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get back our registration. And we were sent a very obscure letter. And there were several other members at the senior center this happened to back then. Kim Wyman, love her. She was incredible. Never had a problem. But when that was a little shocking, and it kind of jolted my faith in the election system when that happened. Because
I understand that, and I not being familiar with that prior to me taking office, our office had removed a voter. The employee didn't do their due diligence, and we had 2 people with the same name. And they grabbed the wrong voter. They removed them from the voter database. It happened to turn out that the person they accidentally selected was the chair of one of the county political parties, which again, just ironically, accidentally happened to be, but we were able to restore it very quickly. It wasn't a problem from our perspective. We were able to restore it. It was an issue for the individual, and we recognize that. And we have a process that they should have looked at a couple of other things. But I get it. I myself didn't cancel somebody, but I was trying to reach a voter. And I looked in the system, and I had 1 voter by that name, and I called them. And then afterwards, I realized that voter wasn't in our active system. I had to go look in a pending area, and I contacted the wrong voter. We actually had 2 people by the same name again. So, it happens, and it wasn't a common name. So it kind of threw me. But Francis, I see your hand there.
A couple of quick questions. Do you happen to know the percentage? You said that we have a total population. The percentage of voters to the total population, 186,000 registered.
Yeah, and there's just over 270,000 people in the county. So, whatever that percentage is, but that's not a representation of registered voters to who could be registered. I haven't looked at that since the census data was updated, but it is something we're going to be looking at, because we're trying to reach out to these people that haven't registered, that have the ability to register.
Right. Second question is, does every county in the state have the same equipment, follow the same procedure?
Basically follow the same. Yeah, we don't have the same equipment. We use different vendors for that. The system and what I was showing you, we use the HART system. HART InterCivic is the manufacturer of the software we use. There's 39 counties in the state of Washington. 19 of them use HART. There are a couple of other systems. There's Clear Ballot. There's ES&S, and there's Dominion, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with the name Dominion. Only 1 county in the state of Washington uses Dominion. It's Franklin County, but they don't use Dominion. They don't use the full suite of Dominion, because Washington state does require a paper ballot, and Dominion's system offers remote voting and different things that are electronic. So they're only using the paper side of the Dominion system. But we all do the same audits and testing.
My other question is, do you have any idea of how many individual people handle a ballot in that process?
I mean, inside of my office, your ballot comes in, it will, let's say you drop it off at a ballot drop box. So there's 2 people that go to the ballot drop box. There's always 2 people. So there's going to be 2 people that are going to be in contact with your ballot there. Your ballot's going to come into our office where we're going to open up the box that they brought in, and 2 other people are then going to count and verify that we received your ballot. So now we're at 4. And then they're going to put those into trays. The tray is going to go onto a machine. There's several people there, but let's say theoretically there's going to be another 2, the person that put your ballot onto the machine and the person that removed it from the machine. Now we're at 6. It's going to go through signature verification where they're not touching your ballot. It's going to go back through the machine again. That's going to be 2 more people, could be the same 2 people that touched it on the machine to begin with. Now we're at 8. It's then going to go to the opener. That's 2 more people. That's going to be 10. Then it's going to go to the individual that's going to remove it from the envelope and do that. That's going to be 1. That's 11. Then it's going to go into the tabulation room where it's going to be initially touched by 1 person. That's 12. If it requires further review, that's 2 more people. That's 14. And then it's put in a box. So it could be touched by 14 people.
And most of them are gonna never look at the ballot itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, the person that does the removing from the envelope, after they've tied off the envelopes and set them aside, they review it to make sure it's complete, and then it's reviewed 1 more time. If it needs further review in the machine, they'll look at the physical ballot again. I guess then to add to it, sorry to make this complex, Francis, but then we have a process in the audit after we've counted all of the ballots, after everything is done, and we're right before we certify the election, we do it's called a risk limiting audit. And that audit is a random sampling of all of the ballots cast in the election. And we get a list of ballots we physically have to pull from their boxes and from their stacks. We're looking for a very specific ballot, and we compare what that ballot markings are on both sides to what the machine recorded for your vote. Now, we don't know it's you, but in that case, there could be a couple more people that would touch it there, but that's not all of we're only doing a random sample of that. So, but 14 just to get it in the system counted. But the rules require that at all times it's 2 people present with your ballot through all of the steps. Sheila.
Yes, would you repeat the websites that we need to go to?
So it's votewa.gov. So it's votewa.gov. And that's the website where you can check the status of your voter registration and the address that we have for you. It's the address that you would use to validate that, or make sure that we've received your ballot, it's processed. It's the same place that you would go as well to request another ballot. So if you didn't get your ballot, you lost it, it got damaged, whatever, you can contact our office directly by using the phone number on our website, or you can go to the VoteWa website, put your information in and request a new ballot there, and we'll issue you a new ballot.
Was there also one that you mentioned, kitsapgov.com?
You can go to Kitsap.gov, so KITSAPGOV.com, and then it's on the auditor's website under elections. So if you just Google Kitsap elections, it's going to take you right to the page. And then on that page, you're going to find all kinds of resources about elections. We tell you what the current election is. We provide a link to the voters pamphlet. We live stream our ballot room. So all of what I showed you in that video, you can watch on a live stream happening in the ballot room. So you can see us actually processing ballots. We from this website will share links, because the different audits and things we have to do to certify an election, we live stream all of those events as well. And so, yeah, I see Reed is bringing up the site here now. The live stream is not currently active, and we'll turn it on somewhere around the 22nd, 23rd, I believe, when we actually start doing ballot processing. We'll turn it on at that point. But you'll see right there, it says ballot processing room during the election. We offer a live stream of that. And that, when we talk about security, transparency, and all of that, my purpose for putting that camera in was just that, so that you could see how we do what we do. We have nothing to hide. Everything is done with multiple employees, with multiple observers. And by showing you what we're doing before you coming down allows you to kind of see how things happen. And then when you get here, you realize we do things exactly the same all the time, every day. You don't need to make an appointment to come in to tour the election room, because we don't care when we have observers. We don't change what we do just because you're there, and we prove that by live streaming, that our processes are the same all the time. Yes, Reed.
So I'm wondering about accommodations that you make for people with disabilities, or if you don't get a ballot and you think you should, how other ways that you might be able to vote.
Yeah, so the accommodations for people with disabilities or that need extra assistance, we offer that through the entire window of voting. So military voters get their ballots 45 days early. The rest of the general population of the county they get their ballots 18 days before. And throughout that entire ballot process, we have an assistive voting machine set up that allows you to come in, and if you've got vision problems, we can enlarge the ballot so you can on a screen see the ballot that's easier to read. You can make selections from that machine for who you want to vote for, and then there's a print option at the end. It prints a physical ballot out. You're not electronically voting, you're just casting your votes, and then the machine will print that ballot for you. If your vision is such that you really can't see it all, we also have an audio option where you can wear headphones. It talks you through the process and tells you, if you want to make this selection, you push this button. If you want this, you push that, and it allows you to navigate. That also has Braille on those buttons. So, it allows you to fully navigate it by yourself. And we are there to assist if necessary, but we do allow you the capability to be independent and vote on your own. And then we also, in the vote centers, we have these machines as well. Now, our vote centers, when I took office, we had 2 vote centers, one here in Port Orchard, one up in Paulsbo. They were open on election day. You could come in and get all of our services during that time, as far as replacement ballots and being able to vote. Since I've taken office, laws have changed. Same-day registration is in effect, so you can actually come into a vote center and you can register to vote, receive your ballot, and vote. But we're also open more days, and we opened a new vote center. So we added Bremerton, so now we have Paulsbo, Bremerton, and Port Orchard as your available vote centers, and we have 3 days. You can come in on a Saturday, you can come in the Monday before Election Day, or on Election Day Tuesday, and we offer all services through those 3 days. So we recognize Bremerton was very underserved as a central hub for people coming in and out of the county, and that community, we really needed a presence there. So we've taken the extra time. Now, we used to also offer a mobile voting service where we would go around to different facilities. I believe we even came up to the senior center on Bainbridge Island. But when COVID hit, the restrictions that were put in place, it put the emergency brake on our van that we would drive around, and we haven't been able to put that program back into place to offer mobile voting. But we have a lot of other options available now, as far as being able to have you be able to vote from home, because you can, from that Vote Law website, actually print a ballot. It prints a declaration that you sign. It prints all the material you would need so that you could actually create your own ballot at home, sign it, and put it in an envelope, either mail it or drop it into one of our drop boxes. And so we've made it a much more self-sufficient if you don't want to come in or can't get all the way to Port Orchard or one of the vote centers.
If I'm mailing my ballot I remember in the last election cycle, there was a lot of urging for us to do that early. Is that still the case?
We always encourage people to vote early, and it has to do with just making sure that we get your ballot in, we get your signature verified, and you've processed through, because any kind of a delay in when we receive your ballot, if there's a problem with your signature, will cost time towards how much time you have to respond. So the people that wait until 8 p.m. on election night to drop it into a drop box, or they wait until whatever last pickup is at the post office, you know, from their mailboxes to get it into the system, they're coming in a big rush of ballots that if it takes us longer to get to yours because you were one of the last ballots to come in that the post office gave to us, it's limiting the number of days we have to review your signature, get a letter out to you, you to get that letter, you know, signed and get it back to us. So we always encourage you vote early, because that way you know that it's been done. And so we always say vote early, but now you don't have to put a stamp on those envelopes if you choose to use the post office. All of your ballots are postage paid. And so that's, you know, you can drop off at the post office, but if you want to speed the process up, we highly encourage you to use our drop boxes. And so the drop box is a direct connection between us and you, because it's our staff that go out and pick those up and bring them right back to the office and get them processing right away. So it is a faster way.
And the drop box on Bainbridge is up at the by Ordway and the Aquatic Center off of Madison.
Yes.
Right across from Sakai Park. Francis.
How many ballot box locations do you have in our county?
We have right now 26 or 27. I'll have to recount. We added one up at Port Gamble, and also another one on the Naval Base Kitsap Bremerton base. And so we are one of very few counties that actually has a ballot drop box on all of our military facilities, but both tribal locations have. Suquamish and Port Gamble, S'Klallam tribe have boxes by their community centers or their tribal centers, and then spread out across the county we have additional boxes.
Well, that answered more questions. I mean, I know that you could talk all afternoon about elections, and I'm sure that if we have any questions that come up after watching this, or after we stop talking, you can certainly call your office.
Absolutely. We're always here to answer questions. I think, you know, there's a couple things that are important to know too on the managing of ballots, and it's probably useful to your group, is that if you've ever heard somebody say, oh, I got multiple ballots, you know, who should I vote for? Or, you know, they show pictures online of them with multiple ballots. We have the ability, and we manage ballots by individual voters. So, you know, like I said, you say you lost your ballot, it didn't get delivered, you request a new one. For us to issue you a new ballot, we first suspend your old ballot. So you only actually ever have one ballot that's active. So if, let's say, you thought you didn't get your ballot delivered, you contacted us, we said, okay, we'll send you a new ballot. We go in, we suspend the ballot that we first sent you. We activate a new ballot and send it out to you. Now let's say, oh, well, it showed up in the mail that day, but we've already issued you a new one. That one ballot isn't active anymore. The new one that's coming is. If you accidentally vote the wrong ballot, we hold it for 5 days after Election Day. And we do that because that's about how long it takes to make sure all of the mail is processed through the post office. And you know, we've received it. And then if that's the only ballot we've received back is the one that we suspended, we go back into the system and we reverse it. We suspend the second ballot, reactivate the first one, and then we go start processing your ballot. So we verify the signature, we go through the opening, and then everything gets counted. But no matter how many ballots somebody says they have, only one of those ballots is ever good. So that's the important thing to remember, is that you can only ever vote once. And this is across the state, in that we'll have voters, because of same-day registration, they may have moved here from another county. It could be King County, it could be Walla Walla County, but you know, they'll get here and they say, yeah, I need to register to vote. We'll look in the system. We can see that, you know, they were issued a ballot from another county. We can also see if that ballot was processed. If the ballot was processed, we'll give you a registration. We won't give you a ballot, and we'll tell you that you're going to get a ballot in the next election. If you get here and you want to register and we look and your ballot didn't process, we can suspend that ballot in whatever county it is in Washington state and issue you a new ballot for our county. So we can suspend a King County or a Walla Walla or wherever you were in Washington, give you a new ballot, allows you to vote, and everything is good. So your rights to be able to vote are maintained through the whole process, regardless of what happens with your residence, where you're living.
It's great.
I don't know if Reed wants to cut me off or if he wants to let me just keep talking. Yeah, we deal with a lot of confusion over what happens with ballots and why do I get multiple, and we've tried sharing that message, to explain, why you could have, but that only one is ever going to actually count. And so that's just part of the securities that we have that go along with what we do in our elections. Reed, did you plan on cutting me off at any particular point? How long do you want this to be?
Well, let's see. We can talk till election day. No, I feel like we covered a lot of really valuable stuff. Thanks for that last edition. Okay. And as I said, as you said at the beginning, you love to talk about elections.
I do. Yeah. I could go on talking about what we do when we certify the equipment. One of the things we did, I'll share, is we're the only county in the state of Washington, maybe the only county in the United States, that has offered an independent third-party audit of our election tabulation system. We invited the political parties in. They created a test deck of ballots that we processed, verified that the counts were what they intended them to be. We invited them to do things that you would never do at home, like use a Sharpie to vote, make stray marks, and do different things so that they could see what happened and how the system responded. So it was a wonderful test to give them more insight into what happens and how our system responds, so that they feel much better about how everything is handled on our end. So I believe it will become a state standard. The Secretary of State was very interested in what we did, what we offered, and I believe their intent is to make everybody do what we've been the first to do. So.
I'm curious about whether you found out anything about your machines with their, did they stump the machine?
No, we know, we're very confident on how the machines respond. This was a test for them to understand, because one of the things, like on your ballot, when you get your ballot, you'll notice that there's serial numbers on the side of the ballot. The serial numbers have nothing to do with you. They have to do with that ballot style. There's multiple styles of ballots that we have in every election. And that's because where you live is unique to what you vote for. And so we have to have a different style ballot for where you live. You're in the north end of the county. You're on Bainbridge Island. You're going to vote for Bainbridge Island Schools, Bainbridge Island Fire. You're going to vote for the 23rd Legislative District representatives. And in the south end of the county, they're voting for the 26th area representatives, and they're voting for South Kitsap Fire. And so those are different ballots, and we issue those out, based on where you live, what ballot you get. And so the barcode tells the machine what ballot it's seeing, what page it's seeing. And then there's another barcode that's a unique number just to the election. It has nothing to do with you. It's randomly actually given to you. But our machines will read those barcodes, and that serial number that is unique verifies that nobody can photocopy your ballot and somehow get it into the system to be processed as a second vote. And we know this, and we know the machine won't count it. We tell them, but they actually got to see by us taking one of the ballots that they voted, we photocopied it, we put it into the stack of ballots, we put it through the machines, and when the second ballot went through, it flagged as this ballot has already been counted, and it didn't count it. So it was, the test allowed us to show a lot of things that we can't normally show you in the nature of all of the tests that we do, and actually processing a ballot. So it was a nice way of being able to dispel some of these beliefs and concerns that they may have had.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for your great questions, folks.
Thank
you so much for having me. Anytime you want me back, if you have a specific topic or something you want more information on, I'm always available.
Okay, we can also talk about deeds and discharges at some point.
And licensing and finance and yeah.
Okay, have a wonderful afternoon.